Welcome back. All right, we're going to talk about the most recent episode of The Flash, which I watched just minutes ago. A New World, Part 1, meaning this is the first of the four-parter that will end the series. And it's an odd start. My one concern coming out of this is it's not a bad episode. I want to say straight out, it's not a bad episode. But it does feel like they're... Can we pull this as far out as possible? Make it 4 episodes? Sure. So we'll put like very, very little in the first episode. And it kind of feels like that's what we did here. That the storyline from here is probably going to be far more interesting than it was in this one. There's some interesting beats in it, but I mean, in general. Anyways, it starts off with Eddie being back, Eddie Thawne. Although at the end we find out that he's not Eddie, I guess, but he's Eddie. They clarified. The show hasn't been very good at hiding spoilers that Eddie's back. Grant Gustin, who plays Barry, also said that he initially pitched that Barry should die. I think he pitched that because he doesn't want to play Barry Allen anymore. That's my theory. I think he's tired of playing Barry Allen. I wouldn't be surprised if he pitched the idea of Barry dying at the end of season 2 and at the end of season 3. And if this is just a regular thing that Grant just leans into the writer's room and goes, Can I have a minute? I'd like to kill off Barry Allen. Please. I know the show's called The Flash. I think you need to kill Barry Allen. Please, for my sanity's sake. At any rate. So Eddie's back. It doesn't matter. At this point, it doesn't matter. Then we go to what looks like we're starting with the B story. Allegra gets a rainbow costume from Chuck. Just some weird costume. So she's a superhero and she doesn't want people to know. And so he just makes it look like it's the amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. It's weird. And so that's the last we see of Allegra and Chuck. So why did they include it? I don't know. Then they go to Joe and Cecile. Looks like this is the C story. And they talk about how lucky they are that they're together. And that's the end of Cecile in this episode. So that's it. Ta-da. I feel bad. I do. For some of these actors and actresses, I feel kind of bad because there's just so little for them to work with. Just so little for them to work with. And then Keown, and this is where I really get tripped up. Apparently she can just turn into dust and go underneath the door because why bother actually opening the door? She's given names to all the plants. They don't really explain her powers. They're just whatever the scene needs in that moment. We've gone from, I think it was 3 episodes ago, she was like, I don't have any powers. I don't know what anybody's talking about. So now she can turn herself into pixie dust and go underneath the door. Sure, that might as well happen. So I put, why the not? Sure, that might as well happen. And then she talks about freezing over a lake and kids going out skating on the lake. I don't recommend this. Unless she made the ice a certain thickness, she just doomed those kids to their death because she didn't stick around. This is the superheroes of this city. Look, I helped. These kids died. Well, they shouldn't have been on the lake. You froze it. Yeah, but it wasn't all that. Yeah, it's still their fault. So then she was like, oh, I wish I had Mark to talk to. Why? He always wanted you to be somebody else. He wanted you to be Frost. He didn't want you to be Keown. I miss my best friend. You know, the one that wanted to murder me to turn me back into his girlfriend? I miss that. Anyways, then Iris has the big... And I don't know how to put this. Like, she did not have a baby belly in the last episode. This one, she's out. She's and then Barry says, yeah, you're due in a few days. All right. So this is a ridiculously fast growing baby, which it's the Flash. It's possible. I don't know how reproduction works with Barry Allen, and I'm better off not knowing, but they do refer to the child as Nora. So I guess it is Nora. And all that fun stuff. And then they talk about her Pulitzer Prize nomination coming in. I don't know why she seemed surprised. We knew that was coming. So, but, it's Iris. So it's possible that even though we knew it was coming, she didn't. So there's that. Barry then gets pulled back in time to the year 2000. I look forward to that being not explained. I do. And I really think that the fact that he could just randomly get pulled back to the year 2000... If there's a villain out there somewhere that wasn't using that before, I don't understand why they didn't. So it gets used here. He's blocked from running back to 2023 because you have to block him. They don't really explain who blocked him or why or how. I guess we can go with negative Speed Force, but Why didn't the negative speed force stop him from running into the future before? So he goes to see Joe, because that's what you do. You go to see Joe. And now Barry doesn't want to mess up the timeline, so he can't tell Joe anything. In reality, this is because they want to draw out the storyline, and he can't tell Joe anything, because then it's going to mess up the storyline. And again, by Barry going to Joe, it does alter the timeline. This is where Barry doesn't understand the butterfly effect. Any minor thing you do, if I went back in time and I went back to say 1987 and I went to my old middle school just to say, hey, the middle school's not there anymore. And I went in and I talked to old friends of mine and I talked to other people. That's still changing the timeline. It still changes. I could still come back to modern day and find things have changed tremendously because I went back in time and did that. And maybe I accidentally helped myself or hurt myself with the interactions I had with other people. And yeah, I might not come back to a present that I recognize. Back to the Future was very clear about this. And while there are some scientific inconsistencies in Back to the Future, that makes some sense. So, if anything, the whole thing should have changed. Like, Marty shouldn't have been living in that house anymore. His family should have been living somewhere else. And Back to the Future 4 would have been, where's my family? So, anyways, so he goes to Joe, doesn't want to mess up the timeline. Then he calls Dr. Stein, who hangs up on him. It's a shame he can't run really fast, so he can't go and see Dr. Stein in person. But because the actor was just doing voice work and not actually appearing on the show, Anyways, so then it looked like he was going to get run over, and then he doesn't. His parents prevent it, which, Back to the Future, right? As Flash knocks him into the street, and it's red light. I'm pretty sure it was red lightning. And I thought, okay, so that should be Barry. It turns out, I guess it's Eobard, but that should have been yellow lightning, because that's the negative, but it's fine. I guess he can make his lightning change colors for certain moments, just not other ones. And then Barry wakes up in the hospital. Remember, he has extremely fast healing ability. All that happened was he got bumped by Flash and landed in the road. He shouldn't have been able to get to the hospital. And my first thought was, okay, so his super healing's gone? No, this was just an excuse so that his parents see him in the hospital. Then they take him out for food, because when somebody's almost been run over by a vehicle and ends up in the hospital, I trying to think of why he was he didn't even have a scratch on him. But at any rate, no scratch, and he sort of, and he's like, oh, my blood sugar's low. Oh, we'll take you out for food. Then why is he in the hospital? Anyways, so then Joe wants to help. He ends up finding a crystal, and that crystal possesses him, because that's what crystals... Don't touch crystals, kids, especially at a crime scene. Parents ask Barry to stay over, but he declines. Then he runs into Eobard Thawne, who says, I didn't bring you here. So it's a hint that it's Eddie that brought him there, I guess. Although it's not Eddie, but it's Eddie. And so him and Thawne plans to kill Barry as a kid. So Thawne is one of the worst villains, and I know all villains do this, but for telling the hero what the plan is. I don't know why you don't tell him something else. So I'm like, I don't know, I've got this oil rig off the coast. It's going to... And when it goes off, you can take the whole East Coast with me. Wahaha. And then go kill Barry. Because he's going to be off the coast dealing with an oil rig. But whatever. Gotta tell him the truth. And then Barry goes and sees Joe possess Joe, who doesn't try to do something. He just called Barry. There's this voice in Barry's head. And so Barry goes in the direction of the voice. Why didn't Joe, while he was possessed, I mean, if he's not worried about messing with the timeline and he's trying to kill, just why didn't the negative speed force just off him? Why call him? Just off him. Just be like, yeah, there's the end of Barry Allen. Done. Show would be over so much quicker. And again, Grant Gustin might have suggested that. Like, can I die here? Okay, Grant, you can't be in these writers' meetings. You need to stop advocating for your own death. So, yeah, and then Thawne flashed Barry into the road so he could have that day with his parents. I don't know. Why? So that is so much more agonizing for you when I kill your mother tonight. Yeah, but you already knew you were going to do that. And we've already gone through Flashpoint. So, all right, cool. Anyways, and then Barry Allen says, you win. I can't stop you. And I just had to put you win. Barry Allen, done. That's it. And if Thawne had killed him in that moment, I would have applauded the show and said that's a way to go out. So then Barry talks to his parents about love. Um, and yeah, and why? Why? Like, it's just there are so many things in this episode, and again, I thought it was well done as an episode, but we already went through all this. He already had all this closure about his mother in Flashpoint in that season, and then things were great at the end of that season. He was okay, and now it's well, I've been dealing with this for a long time, and I've been moping on this for decades. No, you dealt with this. This has already been gone over. So the negative speed force is possessing Joe and puts Barry through a styrofoam wall. I mean, I know it's always going to be a gimmicked wall, but it shouldn't be that obvious that it's a gimmicked wall, that if somebody just walked up and leaned on it, you're just going to fall through the wall. Not a very well-built hospital. Just going to say, hospitals should have walls that are a little bit thicker than mine. So, yeah, and it's a good thing that Barry got thrown through that styrofoam wall, so they'll know to fix that. And again, this would cause. I had to write this in red. These are my thoughts. This would cause massive changes to the timeline already. You've got a hospital on lockdown. You've got all these patients being taken out. You have to think there's people in the ICU who, with the electricity coming and going because of this fight between Barry and the negative speed force, there could be patients dying right now that weren't supposed to. Patients who are injuring themselves to get out of a hospital. There are potentially people being brought to this hospital and now will be brought to a different hospital. You've already made massive changes to the timeline, trying to not make changes to the timeline. And then possessed Joe gives like a Palpatine Vader speech. You can't save your wife and your daughter. And I was waiting for, and sister. So you have a twin sister. I was waiting for it. I want Sister Flash. I don't think there's any reason we don't, but we don't get it. So Barry comes out, police end up showing up. The power of love saves Barry, I guess. The negative speed force is going to kill him, and then he remembers Iris and the baby, and so he finds the power to defeat the negative speed force. So Joe isn't possessed anymore because all it took was love, because love wins. It is, and I know Iris is called his lightning rod, but that's not really how things work. But anyways, that's fine. So then Barry goes to the house, and of course Thawne's going to kill him. So you have Barry telling Thawne that he's there to save Thawne rather than murder Thawne. So Thawne's going in to kill Barry's mother. There's Barry there from Flashpoint there to stop it. There's the other Barry who's there to unstop other Barry, and now there's a third Barry there to save the life of young Barry. There's a lot of Barrys. I feel like I'm talking about Archer all of a sudden because I'm into other Barry, but it was just to get that Flashpoint moment again. It feels like this season they're going, okay, what were our best moments on the show? Let's relive those, because they're not really creating. And this is the one thing, they're not really creating brand new ideas. They're sort of rehashing some of the old ones. Again, I enjoyed the episode. Yes, I'm not going to savage it like I have others, but it's odd when you've got a show that's been on this long and you have to go back to season 1 and say, that was the best story we told. So we're going to go back to it because everything else since then has been a step down. I don't think we'll see Grodd as an example in any of these 4 episodes. Now that I've said it, I'm going to jinx it. So he tries to reason with Thawne. I don't know why. We've had this discussion so many times. I don't understand why he tries to reason with villains. I also don't understand why villains tell Barry their exact plan every time. I don't understand that either. Again, lie to him. Send him somewhere else. So, and then Barry thanks Thawne for his last day with his parents. He just murdered your mom, bro. Like, and so I finally made peace. He murdered her like 2 seconds ago. Dude, he just killed your... Be angry. You're allowed to be angry. And then we go back to Eddie. Because now Flash is back in I guess, in the present. He just... And back he goes. There you go. And so he's struck with Flash lightning, but he's fine. Because when people get struck with lightning on the Flash, they're 100% okay, which I think sends a tremendous message to kids. Make sure that you go out into thunderstorms and just make sure you're the highest point. Carry around metallic umbrellas. Don't do any of this. But if you watch The Flash, You might think that's a good idea. Ben Franklin invented electricity by getting struck with it repeatedly on top of roofs. In Flash timeline, sure. So Eddie finds out that Eddie's dead, and then says, "Who the hell is Eddie Thawne?" Because it's not actually Eddie. Yet some doctor guy. I don't know that I care. It's obvious this is going to be the actual villain, I guess. And so we're through a full episode. We still don't. Nothing's changed. Nothing has changed. So we end up with, at the end of this episode, nothing's advanced. There's nothing that happened in this that a 2-second, maybe a 30-second little beginning blurb at the start of the next episode won't just take care of. Here's what happened in the last episode. Done. I really think you could have taken this and not done it, and probably shortened this into a 3-episode arc instead of 4. But I get it. You have to have 13 episodes. You have to have 13. And so this is how it starts. Again, I've seen reviews. I know everybody liked it. But I think people that are still watching the show are just so desperate for the show to get good again that they're like, hey, that wasn't bad. So it makes it a really good episode, which it was, again. It was a thing that happened, and I've shared it with all of you. So there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video, and I look forward to seeing the next episode when all of a sudden Nora's a teenager, because that baby is really growing quite quickly. So I have some concerns, because if it's months and months later and nothing's happening for Allegra, Chuck, Joe, Cecile, Keone, I feel bad for them. Their whole lives apparently are tied to when something can happen with Flash. So maybe that's why Keone can turn into fairy dust. Maybe she's had months of turning into fairy. I don't see, because Frost never did that, but she's still got Frost powers. But she's got, and yet she doesn't remember all the Caitlin Doctor stuff. It's odd. All right. Thanks so much for all your support. Hit like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. 3 episodes left. I will get through it. I will make it work. But at least I got my Rammstein shirt and hat on. So that's something. All right. I will talk to you again soon.